Chartier. I met Mark 2 years ago, right here at the Courage to Risk conference. His session had about 6 people in it, and I went, wow. I went in, I listened, and I went, oh my gosh, his message is so powerful. I left knowing that he had a gift that he needed to share. So I asked him if he would be willing and wanting to do a luncheon presentation this year, and he said by all means he would love to. Growing up in Long Island, New York, Mark first developed nervous tics at the age of 7. Despite continuous and diverse motor and vocal tics, it wasn't until his senior year in high school that he was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome. Having moved to Colorado for high school, he barely graduated due to poor grades and frequent outbursts and behavior issues. But he managed to graduate without any extra assistance that he may have been eligible for had he been diagnosed earlier. Mark was admitted to the Colorado State University Pueblo on probationary status, where he discovered his love for writing and poetry. Upon graduation from there, he decided to pursue a master's degree in special education, wanting to help students with similar struggles. Since 2008, Mark has been teaching special education, moderate needs, at Jordal Elementary School in Fountain Fort Carson School District 8, where he continues to live out his dream of working with children of diversity. Even though teaching with Tourette's is challenging, he welcomes the opportunity to make a positive impact on his students, emphasizing their individual strengths and their ability to make an immovable contribution to the world. I am very happy to introduce to you Mr. Mark Chartier.
Wardrobe malfunction. Having a master's degree is a teacher. Okay, got it. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so how's everybody doing today? Good. Good. Well, one thing that, not that thing. One thing that I do in my class every single day, when my students come in, I have 6 groups of kids that I see every day. We do something called good things, and I've kind of evolved it and metamorphosed it into something called great things. And so every day at the beginning of class, my kids, we get together and we talk about one great thing in our life. And so I even had this little cheesy song that I sang and we all sing. So I'd like us to start off with great things. I'm going to call on 2, maybe 3 people to tell me their great things. So I'm going to start. Tell me something great. So who wants to share a great thing? My message is we all have great things in life. Miss Barb?
We're down here at the Broadmoor.
Yes, that's all the great things. Yes.
I got a chance to bring my mom, and she's really
Good. Yes.
My children are not here.
Well, my great thing is that I'm here and I get to speak about the 2 loves of my life. And the 2 loves of my life are teaching and writing, specifically poetry and memoir. Those are the things that drive me in life, the things that have been teachers to me. A couple months ago, I was doing great things with one of my students, this little girl named Kiki, and I said, Kiki, what's your great thing? And she said, well, my great thing is I got a guinea pig, a new guinea pig. And I said, oh, really? And I said, is it a boy or a girl? She goes, it's a boy. I go, oh, really? What's his name? She goes, Mr. C. Mr. C is what my students call me. And so you know you finally made it in the world of teaching when your students are naming their pets after you. As a teacher of special education, one thing that continues to amaze me is how creative my students are and how they see the world. For example, I just love the way they see the world, and how they think and how they see things. And one day, a kid, a couple years ago, a kid came up to me and said, "Hey, Mr. C, do you know how to say Mr. C backwards? I know how to say Mr. C backwards." I go, "Really? How do you say Mr. C backwards?" He goes like this. Here, he goes, "Watch. Mr. C." And so, at the same token, a couple years ago, I was working with this kid named Moses, and I used to call him Moses. I have nicknames for all my students. One day I said to him, I was giving him an assessment, and I needed his birthday, and I said, "Moses, when's your birthday?" He goes, "April 22nd. I go, "What year?" He goes, "Every year." And so, I think there's just so much about the kids that I work with that they see the world in such a unique and special way. And I live for that every day. I have Tourette's, and I first started developing tics when I was about 7, 8 years old. It started with eye blinking, and then it went to barking, and my brother and my friends used to call me Mark Bark Ark, which really infuriated me. Got me in a lot of fisticuffs and whatnot. One thing that I get asked a lot is, what's it like to have Tourette's? And, I've heard several different things. It's like having a sneeze and not being able to hold it back. Or it's like having to breathe. You can hold your breath for a little while, but sooner or later you have to breathe. So one time I wrote a memoir piece on it's a very long-winded piece, but it's very thorough and in-depth as to how I see Tourette's for me. And it's different for everybody, but this is a piece that I wrote. It's called 59 Minutes. An hour begins. There are 2, then 4, like itches, then 12. You dab 2, but 6 more come. You're trying to do them all at once, so you can't concentrate on what you are doing. Watching TV, reading a book, walking up the stairs. It's all in the details. Picking them out, examine them. Yourself, your body, and the outside. The things you use, the things that hurt, like grinding your wrist up against the kitchen table, scuffing your feet along the carpet, each one evenly until that last one step, which gets both feet. Sometimes you try and close your eyes so you won't notice things. Noticing things get you into trouble. Look once, twice, again, one more time, blink, blink, blink. You close your eyes so you won't see things you have to look at. But when you close them, you still see them, moving like a step might move out from under you. They come at you like thorns wanting to draw blood, and you give your pinky, your arm to them, but not your eyes. Your eyes are what keep you moving forward. Watch. The medicines keep you looped. You talk in loops, walk in loops. Sometimes you even listen in loops. When you're sleeping, you're not really sleeping. Your mind doesn't shut off. You think and think. You know your eyes are closed, but you're still seeing things. People, mad at you again. The same brick room. That same messed up bed, but different. But different hands reaching out to you, trying to help you. Maybe you annoy them. they annoy them. Your torn words, your head bopping, finger popping, lip licking, The words you say in twos and the same mapped out melody you've been rehearsing for moments to keep things fluent, they annoy them. And you feel bad, then angry, bitter, and then you're annoyed. Annoyed to sleep, to talk. You're annoyed to tell people why they shouldn't be annoyed, why you are annoyed. Why the things that annoy them are ratcheting steel bars to you, closing in on you like the cry, like the cry of knives grating a chalkboard. And then you realize it's all futile. Every little annoying word you could utter would either make them hate you or pity you. Pity parties used to be fun. They used to give you a reason to feel brave. You'd feel brave and you'd know that people were sorry you had to deal with this, that, and oh my, a little poor you here and a little poor you there, and you were primed for the yellow brick road of indulgence. But then something happened. You remember that you still had to deal with them. This and that, and the pity that ended as soon as the door behind you closed, your arms pushing away from the plotted hugs and doctorly pep talks. Pity didn't get you very far then, and it still doesn't today. You don't want someone to cry over what happens to you, what you do to yourself, or how some people misunderstand you. You want to own those tears like a cloud might try to suck its own rain back up. You want to change how people treat everyone, starting with the person right after you. You want them to understand we're all different and each a way to their own. Some are just more obvious than others. You wonder where it came from. Is it of you, a part of you, or something separate from you? A coup d'etat of the mind with soldiers running riot throughout the body. You do these things, but is it you? Do you want to do them? You enjoy them because they make you feel good. Like a second skin making time straight again. Your feet are jumping now. You want to stop them. You want to stop before you have to kick something and feel a spark pain sticking into your joint from where and what you've kicked. Or scratching your leg. No one will see that. Your toes pressing against the corners of your shoes. They won't see that either. But the blinking, the punching yourself in the ribs, gagging yourself on your own tongue, clucking your uvula, looking directly at the sun until your eyes blink under the prickly sprain from the bright. And then again, and again. Until you finally look away, still seeing suns exploding in front of you. That they'll see. Pointing and whispering loud enough for you to hear, looking at that sun again, or the girl's collar on her shirt until she thinks you're checking her out. And who can blame her? You look until she adjusts her shirt, and then you try to look away to mask what you think you were looking at. And then you look back, because now you have to do it again since she adjusted her collar. And the sun is fighting for you again. And this time, you've almost won. And you did it. You won. So you open your eyes, arms at your sides, back to your book, back to your dinner, back to the movie. No one is telling you what to do but you. No outside in or sidestep staring. Nothing is tugging you in any direction to or fro. There's just you and your body, two different limbs of the same tree. And for 1 minute, you're reminded of what life was like when you were 7 years old, before your parents yanked on you like a wishbone in the middle of the street during Saturday morning cartoons. Before you got lost in other kids' backyards on the way home from school, when you learned that mommies don't always come back home, before that crack in the sidewalk gorge, and you know that it was all worth it, this entire minute, all the itches combed into one gasp of instant, even if no one hears or sees you, you know, and that's all that counts in this game of one, where everything Tourette's is X times the things you notice. So, I was in about second grade when these tics started developing, and by third or fourth grade, I started developing some pretty complex tics. And I remember kids on the playground. You know, again, this was in the early 80s. Hardly anyone knew what Tourette's was. And kids on the playground used to paint me to make these faces that I did. They actually came up with names for them. This was called the Twister. And then this was Around the World. And then this was the Works. And they paid me a nickel for the Twister, a dime for around the World, and a quarter for the Works. I tell you, I should have kept charging. With inflation, I'd be doing pretty good right now, you know? And some interesting tics, but I've also had some interesting behaviors. To me, growing up, how I did, I was a pretty unruly kid. Just from the tics and then my behaviors. My mother left me when I was 7 years old, and my dad raised me. And I remember, even in kindergarten, one day I was in kindergarten class, afternoon kindergarten, and I was all over the place. The teacher took me out in the hall and said, "Mark, you stay out here for 5 minutes until you come down." Well, I went back right in. I went right back in. And she took me out again. She said, "Mark, that's it." She took masking tape and taped me to the corner all the way down. Taped me. Turned around, went back in. That tape lasted for about 10 seconds, and I was back in there climbing on the desks and so forth. So, I mean, you know, I have a lot of experiences like that. In middle school, there was this girl, and I was in 7th grade. There was this girl I had a crush on. She had brown hair, and freckles, and brown eyes, and she said, "Hey, Mark, I want to bet you that we were in science and we were dissecting these fish eggs, or fish that had fish eggs. And she said, "Hey, why don't you eat some of these?" I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, what are you going to give me?" She said, "Well, I'll bet you $50 and a kiss." I said, "Okay, sweet." And, so I asked the science teacher, I said, what would happen if I ate this? He goes, "Nothing." So I put some in my mouth. Next thing I know, they're carting me off to the hospital because they were preserved in formaldehyde. And I never got the $50 or the kiss. I still went back to her on Facebook telling her how I'm still waiting for that kiss. You know, I got in a lot of fights, I'm not going to lie. I was definitely, I grew up in a rough home where I was treated a little too sternly. I'll just leave it at that. And so my release was I would go to school and I would take that out. And it didn't matter how big they were or whatnot. I was a little guy in 7th grade. I was probably 3.5 feet tall. And I remember there was this guy, even in 7th grade, he was probably 6 feet tall. And I remember, you know, he said something to me and I probably just, you know, flew off the handle. I actually had to jump up just to hit him. And there was this little teacher who was even shorter than this guy. And she looks at this guy and he's fuming, his face is all red, and she goes, "It's okay, Jonah, calm down. He didn't mean it, he's very sorry." And I'm standing there, I'm like, "No, I did mean it, come on, I'm ready." You know, that was just who I was at that time. And then I moved to Colorado, and it seemed like when I moved to Colorado at age 15, they really, became more present, more evident. You know, it was tough. I mean, it was tough just going from New York to Colorado and being different with, you know, the way I talked, you know, the lingo I used, and so forth. And so I graduated high school with like a 1.9 GPA. And I wasn't diagnosed till October, my senior year, but I didn't tell anybody. To me, Tourette's was a dirty word, and I did not want to talk about it to anybody. I kept it inside. My dad would talk to me about it, and I just walked away. I didn't want to hear about it. And then finally, I had gotten close to a teacher, and I told her about it, and this was probably in March of my senior year. And she got the ball rolling about, hey, what can we do for Mark? Because here he is, He struggled throughout high school, behaviorally and academically, and what can we do for him? And so, eventually I went to Pueblo, and I got accepted to CSU Pueblo on a probationary status, and it was tough. My good friend Jimmy, who I've known since my first year in school, he actually worked at the Disability Resource Coordinator's office, and he was kind of one of my contacts to help me, with anything, really. I mean, he went beyond. With the medications I was taking, I had such a hard time getting up. I had sleep issues. I eventually developed speech issues. And I eventually, finally, after 6 long years, and they were long years, I finally graduated. And then I thought to myself, what am I going to do? Because I had developed a stutter, and it was so significant that I felt like I wasn't ready to go out in the big bad world and work. And so I thought, hey, I want to go to grad school. What can I do in grad school? And I thought, you know what? The people that impacted my life the most were teachers. So why don't I go into teaching? And then I thought, as I narrowed that focus, I thought, hey, special education. I can go and I can help kids, help them in ways that I wasn't helped, and help them, show them that, hey, they can succeed, they can overcome their disability. And I was working with a counselor at the time at school, and she said to me, she didn't say that to me. Sometimes I call my friends and I leave a voicemail and I'm like, hey, I just want to tell you, and they're like, and then I stop myself, I'm like, that's really not what I want to say. I mean, honestly, I have something I really want to say that's substantial. And so this counselor said, Mark, don't go into teaching. Don't go for a master's degree. I can't recommend that for you. No one will hire you. No one will understand you. Your teachers won't understand you. Don't do it. I looked down and felt sad, and I stood up and I turned around and walked out, and I never went back to that lady again. And so, a couple of years later when I started teaching, I was driving home from work and I thought just how incredibly mesmerized and in love I was with teaching. And I thought, you know what? I thought back to that counselor, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to write a poem about my love for teaching and why I felt like I could do this. And so this is called Why Teach. It hits me when I'm heading home. My eyes, heavy rocks to the spongy sky, like I could feel it coming down on me. This is what a blue sky feels like. A taken hand given back before you knew it was missing. Peeling dried blue from your fingers as if it was a second you. And sometimes that blue is like telling a child no for the very first time. Sometimes there are days when the sky seems impossible, when it makes me feel old like rust, when I'm nose to nose with air I can't breathe out, when I'm so tired my body hurts, working against me like the fast of a wind. But then there are days when I'm a dream inside a balloon, going with the wind, a little closer to being found. When kids ask me for lunch money, holding up 2 fingers, or telling me to hand it over, or film through their scalp as though they're trying to make me jealous. And it works. There are days when that sky moves slow like a piece of candy. I want to enjoy it till it's gone. When a child comes up to me and tells me to take a think sheet, or accidentally calls me mom, or grandpa, or vitamin C. There are days, blue over and under, that tell me to go harder, that there's always someone to do something for. They keep me thinking every kid can be helped. Listen, they'll tell you how if you'll just listen. In that sky, there are kids leaving backpacks on the wall to go swing. There are girls telling on the boys and the boys telling on themselves. Kept tears that pinch me like a hot plate you're trying to pass off before it scalds. Every behavior comes from somewhere. There's no such thing as a bad kid. cold desk away, and that sky was nothing to me then. When you said I could never teach with my stuttering, no one will hire you, no one will understand you. Your red pen jotting down notes on a clipboard with an artificial flower at the end. And that's why I set 4 alarms and 2 snoozes by my bed. Why I teach kids the differences between the number 2, the also to, and the going to. And tell them their moms love them no matter what. Yes, even if you finish the day on red. Even when that blue sky won't sit still when you ask it to. Why I make every word count so I can see just how high that balloon really can go. Low that cloud prowling the distance, knowing it's rain just can't touch me. So, I wish I could stand here and tell you that when I first started teaching, I was 100% completely open with my disability, with my Tourette's. It was definitely a process. My first year, I was working with this little girl, and she was from Louisiana. She had this awesome Louisianan accent, and her name was Amani. And one day I was coughing and grunting, and Amani asked me, she said, "Mr. C, are you sick?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Do you have medicine?" I said, "Yeah." And I kept coughing, and she nodded. She goes, "I think you should bring your medicine to school with you." So a couple days later, I'm working with her again, and I was working with her, and I was grunting again, and she asked me, she said, "Mr. C, are you still sick?" I said, "Yes." I said, "But I knew I was copping out. I was stealing away from what I should do." I felt obligated to share this information with them. So I told her, I said, "I have a problem that I can't control. When I get nervous, I make noises like that." She goes, "Oh, I do too." And she said that like she was telling me like she liked chocolate or something, you know? I mean, it was like, "Oh, I do it too," you know? And I went on and I told her, I said, "It's something I can't help. You know how we're all different and how we all have things that are different?" I said, "That's what's different about me." She goes, "I understand, I'm like that too." I said, "We're the same then." She goes, "But not twins." I said, "Yes." I said, "Because you have hair and I don't." She goes to me, "I believe that you had hair once, Mr. C." I said, "Yeah, a long time ago." So another time I was working with Amani, and she came up to me, and honestly, I think this was like 2 years later. She came up to me and she was so excited. She said, "Mr. C, I calculated that I will be 66 years old when the 50th president is elected." I said, "Really? Cool. How old will I be?" She said, "Dead." I said, "What? Are you sure?" She said, "Well, maybe 85 or 95, or dead." So I worked with another kid. Her name was Kate, and she had several diagnoses. One of them was fetal alcohol syndrome, and she was adopted from an orphanage in Russia. Her parents, I still talk to them to this day. They went over and adopted her brother, and then they found out about her because she was in seclusion in an orphanage. And they went back and got her. And I worked with her, and you know, there are some kids that, I mean, you know, I always say all my kids are my favorites, but there are those 2 or 3 kids that I've had that just really have changed who I am as an educator and as a person. And I remember second year, I was proctoring CSTAP for her, and I got upset because I felt like she didn't try. And I kind of, you know, led into her, let her know that I was upset with her, and she cried. And then I just remember leaving thinking, what a jerk I was for, you know, I mean, there's so much more to education than just a test. I mean, yes, the test is important. It helps us show how we're performing, but as a person, I mean, I think you have to look at kids holistically. And so I wrote this poem about her. It's called Special Education. There's so much to do for you, like teaching you how to ask to play with other kids on the playground, when to borrow and subtraction, when not to walk behind me and give me bunny ears, to teach you to check your work even if you're the right answer. There's no reason not to wash your hair, to forget to brush your teeth, or to ask for help to sharpen your pencil that isn't dull. And you're always talking about that rock star with the blonde wig. This kid was obsessed with Hannah Montana. This was back when Hannah Montana was still cool. So, sometimes I want more for you, but usually I want you to want more. Dear patience, your eyes lit with wonder, tapping the room as you look around for something to keep you. Not the mother that drank her way from you, those cold mornings when you couldn't sit up straight on the stone floors of the Russian orphanage, where all you knew were new voices. There's a sympathy that pulls, like a pretty face to a camera. You're a sad that never gets angry, a wing in a world without air. You don't push yourself to the front of the lunch line. You don't tell on every kid that calls you a retard. You smile a smile told in two tenses, one now, the other improbably. And sometimes you interrupt me or call me crazy when I'm trying to teach the vocabulary word of the day. And I want to call your mom so she can fix you, like a shirt missing a button. But you walked into my classroom this morning, your pencil hidden behind your back, and gave me a note. Dear Mr. C, I'm not going to be at school tomorrow. I am sorry. Can you please give me the homework? Thanks. Your expression deep like pockets, laughing that laugh and a half. When I give you sarcasm, potted in a note. No, Dear patience, if you could not walk, I would not walk for you. I would tell you to walk straight. I would not tell you to walk straight, just to walk straight. I would let you stand on my shoes and push you up just enough to build your balance so that nothing less could fall you over. I may have given the tests, but you taught me to never look a girl in the eye when she's crying and pretend like she's not. Thanks. P.S. You're a rock star. So I have to tell you guys something. I am an addict. I am addicted to buying clothes I really can't afford. I am addicted to buying movies that I don't have time to watch. I'm also addicted to singing really bad karaoke. I mean so bad that tomatoes don't even want to come near me. I'm also addicted to writing cheesy pickup lines. I'm talking 5-star, 3 thumbs down, couldn't sell them on eBay for a nickel, cheesy pickup lines. Who wants to hear something? If pretty was a picture, you would be perfect. If love was unspoken, you would be teaching sign language. If beauty was a freckle, you would be little orphan Annie. The sun'll come out tomorrow, so you gotta hang on till tomorrow. If love was a matter, you would always mind. I'm also addicted to helping kids. That is what I wake up for, even when it hurts to wake up. Even when my eyes are runny because I'm so tired and I'm walking into school, running towards that coffee pot. I do that because that is what drives me. Who wants to know why I'm wearing this backpack? Okay, well, a friend of mine in college, when I was in grad school at UCCS, told me we all have a backpack of experience. And, you know, we all have backpacks of experience, and my backpack might be light for you, and it might be heavier for others. We all have these things that we carry with us, and we don't always know what that other person has. In mine, I have 2 things. I have cookies. I opened them last night. I got a little hungry. And I have poison. So, I've had a lot of cookies in my life. I've also had some poison in my life. A couple years ago, before my mom passed away, My mom was a homeless person, suffering from mental illness, barely starved since I was age 7. I had found out she had had a stroke, and her sister, who I really didn't know, emailed me a nasty email, and I remember coming into work, and I remember reading this email and just felt so angry. Who is this lady telling me how to feel about my mother that left me when I was 7 years old? I just felt, all this poison. And right as I was about to respond, this poetry, I teach poetry and fiction workshops at school. This poetry student comes in with cookies that she had made me. She says, "Hi, Mr. C, I made you cookies." And I thought, oh, thanks, Emery, that's awesome. Took her cookies, sat them down, sent her on her way, and I thought, you know what? It's the cookies in life that are matter. I need to put this poison away, and I need to focus on the cookies. So, a couple years ago, I was, or actually a year and a half ago, I was diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury and a toxic brain injury. I don't know where I got the TBI from. The toxic brain injury, I was exposed to some oven cleaner at Country Buffet when I was working there in 2000. And after that, I started developing a significant stutter, and my Tourette's increased threefold. And I was never able to recover from that, so I suspect that's from. But, you know, going through that experience again, another way that I can say, hey, you know, I'm not going to let that stop me. I might have these issues, I might be sensitive to light, I might have tunnel vision sometimes, I might, you know, have difficulties with certain things, but I'm not going to let that stop me. One time I was working with this kid. His name was Brandon. And he said to me in the middle of group one day, he said, "Mr. C, is heaven real?" I said, "Well, Brandon, I don't know for sure." I said, "I haven't been there yet, but I hope so." He goes, "Well, when you get there, could you maybe come back down and tap me on the shoulder and let me know?" And again, just the way that my kids see things, you know? Last year I was working with my 4th graders, and they were telling me about this bully at recess. And I said, "Who is it?" And they told me his name, and I said, "Oh," and I'm jogging my mind to see, to come up with a face to put with the name. And I said, "Oh, is it such and such?" And they're looking at me inquisitively. And I say, "Is he an African-American boy?" And again, they're looking at me inquisitively. And I said, "Is he black?" And one kid says, "Actually, he's wearing green today." And, you know, that's just, I have no words for that, you know? Last year I was working with a student named Ulysses, and his nickname is JC because he wants to be Junior C. We were working on compare and contrast, and I said, "Okay, JC, I want you to compare and contrast me and Hunterific." Hunter, his nickname's Hunterific, because he's terrific. So I said, "JC, compare and contrast this." He goes, "You both have hair on your eyebrows." My first year, I was working with this kindergarten boy, and he a lot of times I use my baldness to make kids laugh, and you know, develop that rapport. And so this kid, he came with a shaved head, and I said, "Hey, we're twins." He said, "We're not twins." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because my hair is going to grow back." Another time, there Mr. C, you have no hair. And then he tapped the top of his head. He said, I'm a baldy too. But he wasn't. He had hair. It was hilarious. and then he whispers over to this other kindergarten boy, and I totally heard him, but I think he was trying to hide from me. He goes, don't tell Mr. C you have hair. He'll take it from you. One time, I was working with a kindergartner, and I said, hey, if you do a good job tomorrow, I will give you a gummy bear. He goes, no, I want one today. You might forget. I said, no. I said, are you kidding me? Do you know how many brains are in here? I said, there are a lot of brains in here. He goes, no, there's not. There's just one. Talking about students that totally changed my life. I had this one student last year, and I only had him for a year, but I thank God for every moment I had with this kid. His name was Miguel. His nickname was Racer. One time, there was a new student, and he was a dwarf. And I said, Miguel, come over here and meet Razel. I said, shake his hand. And Miguel had autism, and so he wasn't as socially adept as, he needed work with social skills. And so that was a big part of what I did with him. And so he comes over and he shakes Razel's hands, and he's looking at me. He goes, is he nice? I go, yeah, he's pretty nice. He goes, is he cute? I go, yeah, he's pretty cute. He goes, I like him. So I wrote a poem about the incredible conversations I've had with Racer. You're everything in blue. Blue shirts, blue hats, blue pencils. If it's blue, you like it, just as you like to raise your hand in math. How old is Sonic the Hedgehog, you ask? Well, let's look it up. And we did. You walk into class, whipping your shoulders with a rubber snake. It helps calm me down, you say. Your roomy gaze, working on questions you cannot noose. And you never like it when my answer contains the word maybe. Do I have to like you, you asked? No, you don't. Is that a fact or opinion? Opinion. Okay, well I do. Like you. I remember the first time I spoke to you. You were at recess and you asked me to race you. After I let you in, you asked, who's faster, me or the Denver Broncos? And I thought about the drubbing they took the Sunday before from the Raiders and pointed your way. And that day we worked on writing when you told me I remind you of Porky Pig because of the way I stutter, and you apologized and said you felt bad for me because I talked that way, and I wanted to be better for you. I wanted to cleave my words clean like water poured from a glass, as I told you to be nice to yourself, and how awesome you are, and funny, and smart, and nice. And cool, you asked? Yes, and cool. Okay, can you tell me all those things again? But I just told them to you. Yeah, but I like hearing you say them. Like the time you worried about me going to Canada to visit my grandfather and wrote in the word chest that you wanted to come with me. My voice cornering, I told you I would be back in a few days and that you would be just fine with the sub. Oh, it's not that I'm going to miss you. I'm just worried that you're going to have more fun without me. Dear Racer, you show the rain new ways to fall. Your smile sharing in embers of charity for those that think but do not know, taking the what is and making it what if. Everyone who knows you loves you like pieces, most unreached, a tapestry of airs, an eye that only looks out. When we walk and you lag behind, you remind me that no one said ready, set, and that life didn't always color within the lines of you, for you. Dear Racer, you're as beautiful as a second chance. The words you traffic that sound like a toddling breeze, pushing between two tree branches, keep racing, that tree will move yet. But today you came to my classroom wearing a red t-shirt, a red hat, and red shoes. You told me red was your new favorite color. And there was a stitch to your step. You didn't seem like the old Racer who laughed when we watched Taco Bell commercials, or who said he wanted to learn about life from me. Instead, you teetered up to me, your face dressed with decision, voice pulled like roots digging, and said you didn't want to have autism anymore. So I find it funny that even as a 37-year-old man, how my kids go through things at 8, 9, 10 years old that I still go through. And so one night I was looking in the mirror at home. I was at home and I was looking in the mirror and I saw nothing but negative. I was thinking about how I don't like myself at times. And the next day at school, Miguel Racer grew very upset, very panicky. So I came into my room during my math group and began crying about something that had happened weeks ago. I ducked out from my math class into the hallway with him, and I tried to calm him down. His tears were real, his voice tremoring, and his voice in anguish. He said, "I don't like myself." And there I was, the hypocrite of hypocrites, about to tell this kid that he needed to like himself. Only I didn't like myself. I didn't. I looked at him as though I was looking in that mirror last night and saw a child frightful and torn, anxious and skeptical. A child who deserved to be loved unconditionally, without reprieve or relent, and know and hear about this love every waking day of his life. I said nothing. I went back into my classroom, tears wrenched in my own heart, and thought, here we go, time to see what you're made of, Chartier. And so I took him down the hall, I took him to a first grade classroom to help redirect him. And then I took him to my old office, and I said, listen, I'm going to draw a picture of things that make me happy, and I want you to draw a picture of things that make you happy. So after we were done, he drew a picture of a roly-poly, a car, Ludacris, and me. He showed me this picture and explained it to me. Then I showed him my picture. It was a picture of him and I racing. The very first thing he did when he saw it was erase his head. I asked him, why? Why are you erasing your head? He told me he wanted to make himself taller, that he needed to be as tall as me. I showed it to him and I asked him if he could tell how I drew his face. And he said, happy. Yeah, happy. You being happy makes me happy, I told him. You know what? Sometimes I don't like myself either. He said, I like you. I think you should like yourself. Well, you know what? I feel the same exact way about you. I think you should like yourself because all the things I've been telling you all year, you're smart, funny, cool, fast, nice. You need to be nice to yourself. You deserve to like yourself. He gazed fervently as I continued. Why don't we add to this picture? I said to him, in this picture we're both racing one another. Why don't we make the finish line a place where we like ourselves? So I drew a finish line and wrote, being happy with myself. He inquired, but who's going to win? I said, well, maybe we both win. Maybe we get there at the same time. Is that okay? He nodded. Well, when should we plan to get there by? I said, how about by the last day of school? It was as if he had read my mind. I told him, I said, let's make that our goal, to be happy with ourselves by the end of the year. Life is hard, school is tough, things that happen that aren't always fair or right, but we've got to be happy with ourselves. We deserve that much. He nodded, he was calm, he was together, he was ready to race, and race he will. When we race during recess, I usually let him win. I stay just close enough behind him to make him believe I'm trying. I just hope, no, I pray, that he doesn't truly leave me behind this time, that we can reach that finish line together. So, my second year, I met this student who had a significant stutter, and I remember meeting her. I was giving her Dibble's assessment and just hearing her, stutter. I looked at her and I was like, oh, I so know how that feels. Even though my stuttering had gotten a little bit better, I knew how it felt, and so I wrote this poem. It's called More Than a Disability. You're standing next to me, trying to get out of your words, trying them on like new clothes that don't quite fit. You're stretching your sounds, filling in extra words that start rhythm to the sound sewn. A big breath in, I wait, keeping eye contact so you won't feel nervous or think I'm going to finish your sentence. I want to hear it from you. Fit. Dear forgiveness, Life is not fair. People are not fair. There are some who will wait for you like the wind waits on goodbyes, and some who will try and speak for you, birds carrying seed not their own. Don't let the mocker stem you, a flower with tried roots. Remember, beauty is a silk scarf roughing the rocks. Stay soft, the wind will tell you when. At recess, you run around in your green shoelaces, giving your friends the playground poke. Sometimes a boy pushes you on the swing, your arms letting go like a fire-taking spirit, saying higher, a teethy grin pursing your stutter. And even when you accidentally kick that boy, he still swings you. He still looks down when he tells you secrets, his hands in his pockets, the twitch of time, holding a sweat only he cares, getting you like vision through glass. Forgiveness. Were I able to shove that stutter out of your reach and into mine, I would take a likely breath and watch you speak to that boy like those new clothes finally fit. But Kant doesn't always play fair. It doesn't always make things happen the way we pray why. So instead I'll just stand here waiting for you to tell me that kid who laughed at you at lunch is the same kid you helped during math. And you tell me that I'm amazing when it's you that gives the morning its sake. It's not how you say it, but what you say. Thanks for filling my skies. You know, one day I was walking the second graders out to recess, and they were walking out close to the street. I said, hey, you guys, you got to be on the sidewalk. I said, you guys are like gold.